Hi everybody. Okay, today I'm going to tell you about two things. The first one is tunneling through the earth and what would that mean for someone going through that tunnel. And then the second one is gravitational potential, which is something we've studied before, but we're going to look at it in a different way today. Okay, so first thing, tunneling through the earth. Let's say you dig a tunnel straight down through the center of the earth to the other side. And of course, Madagascar is on the other side of the earth from us. So you jump into the tunnel, and what happens to the gravitational force as you travel toward the center of the earth? And let's just assume for this problem that the earth has uniform density, which it doesn't, but let's just assume that. Okay, so here is the earth, and the surface of the earth is up here, but the tunnel is through the center. And you've jumped in and you're about halfway to the center right now, let's say. And I've drawn the earth as a series of layers, like an onion, thin spherical shells, and hopefully that reminds you of Newton's shell theorem. Let's go look at Newton's shell theorem. From last class, Newton's shell theorem says that when a particle is inside a shell, the shell exerts zero force on the particle. Okay. So think about the outermost shell, and you can see that the person is inside that shell. And so that shell of material doesn't exert any force on the person, and the next one, and the next one, until you get to the layer where the person actually is. All of those shells don't exert any gravitational force on this person, according to Newton's shell theorem. So we only have to look at the shells that are inside the layer that the person is at, this dotted line. And so you can see that as you fall, the gravitational force decreases because there's less mass that's influencing you. And at the center, you're inside all the shells, and the gravitational force becomes zero. And after you pass through the center, it starts to increase again. So let's make an expression for the force of gravity on you when you're, let's just make it any distance from the center. It could be halfway, it could be a quarter from distance from the center. We're just going to make it at a distance r prime. That's the distance, instead of r, which would be the full radius of the Earth. And we're going to write an equation for the force of gravity as a function of radius. Okay, so here is the same picture with the radius r prime at some radius. And when it's at that radius, the mass that's enclosed by that dotted line is m prime instead of the full mass of the Earth. So this unshaded mass is m prime and this radius is r prime. Then, by the universal law of gravitation, we have the equation for the force, g m prime m over r prime squared. And the problem with this function is that two things are changing. The mass is changing as you go in, and the radius is changing. So that's not good. We don't want an equation with two variables. So let's get m prime in terms of r prime using density. Density is a really nice way to always to connect mass and volume, or in this case, mass and radius. M prime equals density times volume prime, where volume is this equation, volume of a sphere, the radius r prime. Make that substitution, and now we have an equation that's only in terms of r, and actually some of the r's cancel, and it's linear with r. So we find that all of these terms are constants, and so we'll just call that k. This is k times r prime. So that's a linear equation. In other words, force is linear with radius. And this should remind you of simple harmonic motion, which requires a linear restoring force. And then k is what we've been calling the force constant for springs or for pendulums or for different kinds of pendulums. There's always a force constant, and that's that coefficient. So it turns out you will oscillate in the tunnel in simple harmonic motion. You'll go down, you'll speed up towards the center where you'll have your maximum speed, and then you'll slow down, and then you come back, and then you speed up. You'll never actually leave on the other side. You'll just come right back. So take a minute and describe your motion in the tunnel. Pause it and do that. Okay, now we're going to find the time it takes you to complete one oscillation, one full oscillation. So if you remember the general equation for the period of anything in simple harmonic motion, it's period equals 2 pi square root of mass over force constant. So we can substitute mass and force constant, just like we did with springs in parallel that were, a little different, or a physical pendulum, or springs in series. We just figured out what the effective force constant was, which is what we just found, K, here, and substitute that in and solve for the period. There's another way to do this, though. By the way, the period is about an hour and a half. So that's a pretty short trip. Another way to find the period is you could set the net force equal to ma. And then you get an equation which could be written as a differential equation and could be solved. Well, it's a sine function, but what we're interested in is this frequency, this angular frequency omega. And so we know that the form of this is that if you take the second derivative of the sine function, you get an omega squared out here. So this is omega squared, negative omega squared. And so this is omega then, and substitute that in to the relationship between period and frequency, and you get the same thing we got before, same equation. Okay, the next question to consider is what will be your speed when you're going through the center of the Earth? At the very center, what's your speed? And this is your maximum speed, right? Your minimum speed is 0 when you're just at the surface of the Earth on either end. Okay, so how do we solve this problem? To find how fast the person is moving in the center of the tunnel. We can use energy, but we have to be very careful here because we really need to look at how we're defining things. If we say the initial energy at the surface equals the final energy in the center, then at the surface we assume it's all potential and at the center it's all kinetic. We're making an assumption that at the center, that's the location of 0 potential energy. So that's okay, but if that's the location of 0 potential energy, we can't say that this UG equals mgh, because that would be like saying that the work to go from the center to the surface is the force mg times h, but we know that the force is changing the whole time. So this is like a spring now, right? This is not a constant force getting from the center to the surface. So we could draw that linear relationship between force and radius, and we can see that UG is actually the area, or the work done to move from the center to the surface is the area under this triangle. In other words, the integral of force with respect to distance, with respect to radius, or the area, 1/2 mg, which is the force on the surface, times re, which is the radius on the surface. Now plug that into the energy equation. So we get this is the potential on the surface, this is the kinetic in the center, and solve for V using the radius of the Earth, which is 6.37 times 10 to the 6 meters. And you get 7.9 kilometers, which should look familiar, maybe, from the last class, or maybe the one before, because that is the same as the surface orbital speed of a satellite. So this is an interesting parallel we see here between a circular satellite and a linear simple harmonic motion oscillator, right? We always see those kinds of parallels. And that's the answer to that question.